moving on to the NFC North, we're going to kick things off with the Bears. All right, so the Bears had the heartbreaking loss to a fantastic season under first-year head coach Matt Nagy due to the double doink. I don't know, there's a video floating around with some Bears fans. Apparently, I assume it's fake, but there's a little stuffed bear that looks like he's kicking, and if you squeeze him, it goes double doink, and allegedly they're selling them in Green Bay. I think that's awesome. So, due to that, that's really haunted the Bears offseason. So, at one point, they brought in 8 kickers to battle it out in training camp. At the time, 2 of them made it out, Eddie Pinheiro and Elliott Fry. Elliott Fry was actually signed from the AAF. I believe Fry was actually cut. Let me Google that real quick, sorry. Yes, they did end up releasing him, and then he actually got signed by the Ravens. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Some last minute Googling I should have done. But Pinheiro is still there. I hope I'm saying that right. He actually last preseason game hit a 58-yarder. Pretty much probably sealed that job up. Unless Carly Lloyd, who's been seen kicking field goals in some training camp, she apparently had gotten some teams interested. Carly Lloyd being a U.S. women's soccer player. So, besides the kicker battle, so you got Mitch Trubisky. He's going into year 3, but year 2 under Matt Nagy's offense. Matt Nagy coming over from Kansas City last year under Andy Reid. One of those guys that really kind of gets overshadowed by the Sean McVay offensive genius and his, anyone McVay remotely touches or breathes on is an offensive genius. Matt Nagy has really turned that offense around in Chicago. So I think one big question mark is Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is their number 1 wide receiver. So a few years ago, it was 2015, he had a career year where he had 80 catches for 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. And then he kind of, in 2016, kind of regressed a little bit. He had 73 catches for 833 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then he tore his ACL. Last year was his first year back from that, and his first year in Chicago. He only had 55 catches for 754 yards and 4 touchdowns. Really, he had a better catch rate this year than he had since his rookie year. But I think just acclimating to the first year in that offense, that and Mitch Trubisky still being a young quarterback, you're really going to need, I think, Mitch to take a big jump in year 3 for Robinson to really show the number 1 wide receiver prowess that he has in the past. I don't know. I feel like Trubisky may be still a little inconsistent, at least as a passer. But the hope is obviously for Bears fans that they don't, or that he does get more consistent. So basically what led that team last year was their defense. Defense was top in the league in just about all categories. I will throw a little caution out there, and I think they're going to regress. And I have a great example in the Jacksonville Jaguars of last year. So, where they regressed the most was in sacks and turnovers. So, in 2017, the Jags had 33 turnovers as a defense, and then in 2018, they only had 17. Also, they had 55 sacks in 2017. That went down to 37 in 2018. So, Grant and the Jags defensively, they only went from second to fifth in yards. I don't think you'll see a big like maybe yards drop defensively. Points you may see a drop, probably see a little bit of a drop as well. But last year the Bears led the league in turnovers with 36, 27 of which were interceptions, and they were third in the league in sacks with 50. I definitely expect both those numbers to decline, and it's just not going to be as ferocious and as terrifying of a defense as last year. I think the Bears are going to have an above average year, but probably not a great year for the Bears fans. I think they're going to go 9-7 and miss the playoffs. Yeah, probably definitely too early for merch. Yeah. All right, moving on to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers made a coaching change in the offseason, hiring head coach Matt LaFleur. Uh, there were several years of Mike McCarthy there, but it was felt there needed to be a change. So Matt LaFleur was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans last year. So he's worked under Kyle Shanahan on several occasions throughout his career, and he used Kyle Shanahan's known for that two-back system. You know, everyone. It's funny is when he was in Atlanta, you had the Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. It's probably the best example of that two-back system. And Matt LaFleur used it last year with Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis. Granted, towards the end of the year, it was more Derrick Henry, less Deion Lewis, but he still used him as a third down back, Deion Lewis. Granted, Derrick Henry doesn't have the pass-catching skill set at all. Now, I do expect them to run the ball more. So last year, they had 333 rushing attempts, which was dead last in the NFL. I fully expect that to go up. I believe Aaron Rodgers has come out and endorsed wanting to run the ball more. They have Aaron Jones there. Aaron Jones averages 5.5 yards a carry over the first two seasons, which is phenomenal. Packers have a pretty good offensive line. That definitely helps. But you'd expect them to step up the pace, especially Matt LaFleur. With the Titans last year, they ran the ball 454 times, which is ninth in the NFL. Definitely expect them to have an uptick in the running game. They did make a lot of moves defensively. They brought in outside linebacker Zadarius Smith, outside linebacker Preston Smith, and free safety Adrian Amos. They did lose Clay Matthews III at outside linebacker, defensive end Mike Daniels, and linebacker Jack Ryan. But in the draft, they addressed defense as well, getting edge rusher Rashad Gary from Michigan in the first round. Should be a monster on that defensive line. I think the Packers are going to improve a lot this year. I think their defense will take a slight step forward, but I expect the offense to be much better. Running the ball is going to allow them to have more balance. They have Devontae Adams, fantastic wide receiver one. You got Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdez-Scantling at wide receiver as the 2 and 3 wide receiver. Both just another year with Rodgers. Valdez-Scantling, this is going to be a second year, and I believe it's going to be third year for Geronimo. Just more time with Rodgers. I think you're going to see a huge, huge uptick in offense. And I got the Packers going 13-3 and getting a wild card spot. All right, next to the Minnesota Vikings. So the Vikings made an OC change late last year to Kevin Stefanski. He's going to be the OC full-time coming into this year. And the big thing is head coach Mike Zimmer, he wants to run the ball. He's kind of an old-school philosophy guy. He wants to run the ball and play great defense. So they brought which is interesting when you paid Kirk Cousins a lot of money. You have one of the best wide receiver duos in the league in Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, but that's what they want to do. Now they brought in Kevin Stefanski as the offensive coordinator last 3 games of the season. In that time, they went 2-1, which was pretty good. But if you look at it, their wins were against the Dolphins and Lions, 2 teams that were at the bottom of the NFL, and their one loss was to the Bears, one of the best teams in the NFL. So it's kind of hard to judge with such a small sample size. So I think one thing that hurt them last year, one reason I think they didn't run the ball as much, yes, John DeFilippo, who was their offensive coordinator, is a very pass-happy offensive coordinator, but Dalvin Cook was hurt for a lot of the year. Their starting running back. When you lose your starting running back, it makes it difficult to have effective running game. They also had some bad O-line play. I believe there's some injuries on the O-line. The offensive line was not good. If they can improve there, obviously it's going to help the run game. And yeah, the run does help open up the pass as well, typically. I think the offense is going to improve mightily. Just another year with Kirk Cousins in the offense, and just another year of chemistry with Thielen and Diggs. He's been using Kyle Rudolph a little bit more. He's been a little bit more involved in the offense than he was last year so far in the offseason and preseason. That'll be a big help. And obviously if Dalvin Cook can stay healthy all year, in the preseason game 3 early on, he had that 85-yard touchdown run. Already looking like he's ready to tear up some defenses. The O-line is the issue. They've addressed it through the draft and free agency. PFF has them ranked 25th coming into the season. It's an improvement from last year where they finished the year 29th. So hopefully they can improve. Defense, they normally have a pretty good defense. It was definitely a step back from your typical Vikings defense over the last few years. But I think in the offseason, they definitely rectified that. And I expect the Vikings to be back to your typical Vikings defense. I have the Vikings also going 13-3. I have them finishing with a better divisional record, winning the division over the Packers. All right. On to the Detroit Lions. So it's going to be an uphill battle for the Lions this year. I think this is one of the best, if not the best, division in football. I have the other 3 teams all above 500. It's not going to be a good year for the Lions. I don't think they'll win a single game in the division. And because of that, you're going to see Matt Patricia pretty quickly on the hot seat. Is the rebuild not quite going to plan? Matt Ryan was dealing with some back injuries all of last year. Sorry, did I say not Matt Ryan? Matt Stafford was dealing with back injuries all last year, which hurt the offense. But I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of improvement there. They still have good weapons with Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. But I think losing Golden Tate is going to be a big thing. They traded him away midway last year, and you definitely saw that hurt the offense. Part of it might have been the injuries, but I think losing Golden Tate is going to be a big deal. At running back, probably their brightest spot offensively is Kerryon Johnson at running back. The only concern is whether or not he will get all three downs worth of work. Seems to be coming out on 3rd down, and C.J. Anderson's in town, so he may siphon some touchdowns away. And then their defense isn't great. I just don't think it's going to be a good year for the Lions. I got the Lions going 3-13.